The aroma of community. Once upon a time, in a lively village full of color and sound, the marketplace buzzed like a beehive, drawing in villagers from nearby lands. The air was thick with the savory scents of street food. Spices swirled together to create an aroma that beckoned folks near. Central to this culinary symphony was Baba Juma, a beloved figure known for his special lentil stew. His food didn't just satisfy hunger, it nourished the spirit of the community. Every morning, long before dawn broke over the horizon, Baba Juma would begin his day. He would stir the pot that held the ingredients for his stew, carefully selecting lentils that glimmered like gold, and herbs whose fragrance promised warmth. His crooked back was a testament to his years spent in the kitchen, but the gleam in his deep-set brown eyes spoke of passion and dedication. "Baba Juma, what delightful treat do you have for us today?" called out Amina, a spirited young woman who had grown up under his tender care. With her braided hair adorned with colorful beads that sparkled like the sun, she brought an energy that lifted the spirits of everyone around her. "Ah, my child. Today is a special day, for I have added a hint of citrus to the stew," Baba Juma replied, his voice rich and warm, like the embrace of a cherished grandparent. As the sun began to rise, villagers gathered around Baba Juma's stall, drawn by the tantalizing aroma wafting through the air. Camaraderie spread like wildfire among the people, as jovial laughter and friendly banter filled the atmosphere. They exchanged stories of their lives, their struggles woven into the vibrant tapestry of shared experiences. Baba Juma ladled the steaming stew into bowls, each serving a generous portion done with great care. The villagers savored the first bite, and the flavors danced on their tongues, igniting memories of grand feasts and familial love. On this particular morning, the villagers celebrated a recent harvest, and joy surged through their hearts as they lifted their bowls in a toast. To community, to life, they cheered. But beneath the surface of this vibrant gathering, a flicker of mischief watched unseen. Kijani, a spirit of hunger, had been drawn to the marketplace by the intoxicating scents. Unbeknownst to the villagers, Kijani found delight in their desires, craving the connection that once filled his own heart. Yet, loneliness twisted his longing into a need for chaos. He hovered just out of sight, whimsically entwined in the shadow of an ancient tree. As he glimpsed the happy faces of the villagers, something shifted within him. A plan began to form, a scheme to share the joy of food that twisted into an insatiable craving. He waved his hand, and a shimmer of green light enveloped his fingertips, sparking with magic that could change the lives of the villagers. For Kijani, it was a game, one that would awaken an ancient hunger deep within the hearts of those around him. If they could taste the thrill of desire to its fullest, perhaps they would understand the very essence of life itself. And so, he whispered a spell into the wind meant to intoxicate their senses and kindle an insatiable longing for food. As the day wore on, laughter filled the air, and Baba Juma poured bowl after bowl of his treasured stew. It was a feast for the senses, but as the villagers savored each bite, something peculiar began to happen. The bliss they once felt turned subtly into yearning, a spark ignited in their minds, urging them to seek more. Unaware of the mischief taking root within their hearts, they rushed for more stew, voices rising in excitement, slipping further into a frenzy of desire. Amina, noticing a change in mood, frowned, concerned for the friends who were once united by gratitude. "What is happening?" she thought, sensing a shift in the atmosphere. The joyous market felt teetering on the edge of excess. The laughter now carried a frantic undertone. Baba Juma, caught in the fervor and his own delight, suddenly noticed the villagers' eyes, now gleaming with an insatiable hunger. A sense of foreboding tugged at his heart. How could something so joyous turn so quickly into chaos? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow over the marketplace, Baba Juma's heart raced. The spirit of community that once flourished here was beginning to fade beneath the weight of craving. Little did he know, the resonant laughter and the delightful aroma of his stew were about to become entangled in a web woven by the insatiable spirit Kijani. The mischief unleashed. The sun climbed higher over the village, painting everything in gold and warmth. Beneath the gentle glow, the marketplace thrummed with energy, its colors brighter and sounds more vibrant than ever. Yet, lingering in the shadows, Kijani watched with delight, his eyes shimmering like emeralds as he observed the people reveling in their shared joy. His heart, once heavy, now flitted with the thrill of excitement. It had been too long since he'd felt connected to the world of humans, and his longing for companionship twisted into a plan. He stretched his fingers and licked his lips, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. Today, he would change the game. "Listen closely, spirit of hunger," he muttered to himself, a hint of glee dancing in his voice. "You shall bring them closer through desire. Just one taste of magic will do." With that thought swirling in his mind, Kijani summoned forth a flicker of energy, crafting a spell that would tantalize their senses yet awaken a hunger so profound it would overshadow their shared harmony. He would create an unforgettable experience, but it was one that would tip the delicate balance of their community. He twirled in glee, a bright green mist escaping from his palms and enveloping the stew bubbling over the fire at Baba Juma's stall. The spell intertwined with the fragrant spices, transforming the dish into an alluring siren's call. Suddenly, colors intensified, and the aroma wafted with ethereal notes that spoke to the heart, igniting memories of forgotten family feasts under twinkling stars. "A bowl of my stew," Baba Juma said, lifting a ladle, blissfully unaware of Kijani's trickery. He poured a steaming portion for a group of excited children who squealed with delight, their eyes wide and their stomachs grumbling. As the first children took their first bites, the spell kicked in. Their faces lit up with delight, only to be quickly replaced by widening eyes. It was as if the taste had awakened something deep within them, a primal urge that sent whispers of longing echoing in their minds. They clutched their bowls tighter, desperate to savor every drop. Watching from the shadows, Kijani's excitement soared. He felt power coursing through him as the joyous laughter began to shift into something else. The children, still giggling, suddenly demanded more, their voices rising in desperation. Baba Juma glanced up, puzzled, as the laughter of the villagers morphed into a fervor. They surrounded his stall in a frenzy, clamoring for second helpings of the stew. It was as if they had forgotten the simple pleasure of savoring a meal, fixated instead on winning against their insatiable hunger. "Easy now, my friends. There's enough for everyone," Baba Juma called out, trying to regain control. Yet, his voice was drowned out by the swelling tide of demand. In that moment, Amina stepped forward, her brow furrowed with concern. She watched her fellow villagers dive into the bowls of stew, their faces lit with an intensity that frightened her. "What is happening?" she murmured, glancing at Baba Juma, who stood bewildered at the overwhelming response. Baba Juma's laughter faltered as he filled bowl after bowl, sensing that something was amiss. "It's just a stew," he mumbled, though his heart thudded in apprehension. The ruckus continued to crescendo as families joined in, chanting for more, completely consumed by the interpretation of taste into a demand for excess. Kijani, now intoxicated by the chaos he had stoked, reveled in the frenzy he had unleashed. The spirit of hunger within him seemed alive, feeding off the desire echoing around the stall. But with each bowl served, he felt a flicker of doubt. Was this truly what he wanted? As the villagers devoured bite after bite, an unsettling stillness washed over the marketplace. The laughter that once expressed joy had transformed into wild clamor, breaking the rhythm of community that had hung in the air just moments ago. "More. We need more," a voice rang out among the villagers, causing others to echo the demand. Panic began to crawl into Amina's heart. She could see the wild glimmer in the eyes of her friends, a desperate hunger taking root. "Baba Juma, stop," she pleaded, grabbing his hand. "This isn't right. Look at them." Baba Juma followed her gaze and felt an icy realization grip him. The cheerful community that had gathered was slipping away, drowning in an avalanche of greed. He dropped the ladle and stepped forward, raising his hands for silence, a frown etched into his brow. "Friends, there's plenty for everyone. We must enjoy what we have, not fight for more." But it was too late. With every serving, the village became unrecognizable, a whirlwind of frenzied hunger swirling around them. The energy in the air shifted, from joyous togetherness to rampant desire as laughter turned to frantic cries for satisfaction. Kijani watched in mounting unease, the thrill of the game ebbing away. He had longed to feel connected, yet this reckless frenzy had imprisoned him in a whirlwind of gluttony. The laughter drowned in chaos was not the camaraderie he had sought. As the villagers lost their sense of self, Kijani realized he might have unleashed something far beyond his intentions. Amid the chaos, Amina's voice pierced through the clamor, full of concern, full of resolve. "We need to remember who we are. This is not us. "This is not what food is meant to do." But as her words echoed, it seemed Kijani's spell tightened its grip. The joyous aroma transformed into an insatiable demon, seeking to devour all that had been. And there, in a marketplace once brimming with community, a silence began to creep in. One that would soon mirror Kijani's heart as the realization of his mischief unfurled. If you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us continue bringing more content your way. Thank you so much for your support, and let's get back to the story. A growing insatiability. The marketplace, once a hub of laughter and cheer, now echoed with urgent demands and unsettling frenzy. Villagers surged forward, their bowls tilted dangerously as they clamored for more, each voice drowning out the last. The spirit of hunger had woven its way into their hearts, turning the joyous gathering into a chaotic spectacle, and still, they howled for more. Amina stood in the midst of the turmoil, unsure of how to quell the restless tide that swept through her beloved village. The cheerful smiles she had seen earlier were now contorted with desperation. Desperate to help, she turned to Baba Juma, who stood motionless, staring wide-eyed at the scene painted with gluttony before him. "What do we do?" she gasped, her voice barely reaching his ears above the loud clamor. "This isn't right. We can't keep giving them more. They will lose themselves." But Baba Juma, a seasoned chef and wise elder, could hardly tear his eyes away from the chaos. His heart ached at the sight of his friends and neighbors consumed by a hunger that didn't seem to end. "They need to remember the simple joy of sharing," he murmured, almost to himself. "But the spirit's influence, it is too strong." As if on cue, a ripple of energy surged through the crowd, and a new wave of energy swept through the villagers, igniting them with an insatiable need for food. "More stew," they shouted, hands thrusting bowls forward, clamoring like children at a feast. Among the throng, a familiar face pushed through, Amina, the village elder famed for her wisdom. Her sturdy presence held a long-standing authority in the community, but even she seemed overwhelmed by the growing frenzy. When she reached Baba Juma's stall, she placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. "Baba Juma, we must address this before it's too late," she said, her voice calm yet urgent. "The spell has twisted their appetite, turning friends into competitors." Gathering her breath, she clapped her hands to draw attention. "People of the village, hold your bowls. I know you are hungry, but this is not how we share a meal." Amina leaped in support of Amina, raising her arms above the din. "Remember our gatherings. Remember the laughter, the stories. Food is about more than just filling our stomachs." Some villagers paused, their brows furrowing as they blinked, realization slowly creeping into their minds. Yet, the spell's hold was like a shackle, and the momentary clarity faded as quickly as it had come. As the chaos continued, Kijani watched from a distance, his emerald eyes wide with disbelief. The energy he had conjured spun out of control, a whirlwind of cravings spiraling beyond his expectations. He had aimed to connect with the villagers through shared desire but had only sown the seeds of disarray. Regret seeped into Kijani's heart, twisting within him like a clenched knot. He stepped closer, inching out from the shade of the tree, hoping to intervene, but he felt hesitant. Would they accept him among them again? Would they ever see him as more than just the spirit of their hunger? Meanwhile, Amina and Amina pressed on, undeterred by the initial resistance. "Think of our last festival," Amina called out, her voice shaking but resolute. "We shared food, laughter, and love. We cannot allow this spirit to take that away from us." Slowly, a smattering of quiet began to ripple through the crowd, a flicker of recognition, a shared memory unshackled momentarily from their depths. Faces turned contemplative, hearts reigniting with a longing for connection beyond mere appetite. The communal spirit, drained but not extinguished, sparked like embers in a hearth. A group of villagers, still clutching their bowls, began to murmur amongst themselves. "Remember the tales of the elders," one voice broke through the noise. "Remember the feasts we shared." But the moment was fragile, and it threatened to burst as ugly cravings clawed at the menu, fueled by an unseen force from Kijani's spell. As their hunger reignited, the villagers' thoughts returned to the stew, and the insatiability overcame their fleeting moments of clarity. "More stew," they yelled again, clamoring for more, their eyes wide with need. With mounting desperation, Baba Juma stepped back and cupped his hands around his mouth, willing his voice to rise above the clamor. You are strong together. Not in gluttony, but as a community. Food is not just about filling our bellies. It's about warmth, about sharing, about love. But the spell tightened its grip, and the villagers fell back into fervency, the echoes of craving drowning out his words. Kijani, watching this unfold, felt a pang of guilt ripple through him. He had only wanted to feel a part of their world, to experience what it was like to be included in their joy. Yet he had spiraled them into darkness, fed their desires until they threatened to consume all that was beautiful and kind. Desperate to mend the rift his magic had caused, Kijani finally stepped forward, and as he emerged from the shadows, the villagers turned, sensing an unfamiliar presence amid their chaos. The spirit of hunger stood tall, shimmering in his ethereal glory, his heart conflicted with the weight of his actions. Please, he implored, his voice gentle yet firm. I mean no harm. I wanted to connect. I only wanted to awaken the joy of sharing, of togetherness. But I see now that I have overstepped. A silence fell over the crowd, attention shifting from their consuming desires to the spirit standing before them. Wrath and confusion grappled in the air, and Mama Nia's wise voice rose once more, calming the hearts gripped by excess. What do you desire, Kijani? You must be honest, for that will guide us. Sensing an opening, Kijani took a breath and met the eyes of those gathered, fear, anger, and something else, intrigue. I wish to be part of your world, Kijani admitted, his emerald eyes reflecting vulnerability. But to do that, I must learn to understand the true meaning of sharing. For the first time, the villagers paused, pondering the spirit's words, unsure whether to trust him. But the urge to consume began to flicker, and for a moment, hope glimmered in the darkness. Trust had the potential to bloom within the chaos. Perhaps that was the key to breaking the spell's stranglehold. Seeking wisdom. The sun hung low in the sky, creating a warm glow that cloaked the village in soft light, but a chill lingered in the air, heavy with worry. Amina, Baba Juma, and Mama Nia gathered outside the bustling marketplace, where frantic cries for more stew still echoed off the walls of the town. The jubilant laughter had faded into a distant memory, replaced by urgency and desperation. Something had to be done. Baba Juma, Mama Nia began, her eyes shimmering with wisdom and concern. We need the elders to help us find a solution. The villagers are lost in their cravings. They cannot see the joy of our community anymore. Baba Juma nodded, his brow furrowed. They are prisoners of this hunger. If only they could remember the stories we've shared over meals, the love that binds us. Amina stepped forward, her voice steady but filled with emotion. We need to remind them of our traditions. We need to show them the power of sharing, of coming together as one. But first, we must understand the source of this madness. As they deliberated, Kijani lingered on the outskirts, wrapped in his own turmoil. He watched the three figures converse, his heart heavy with remorse. While he had intended for the villagers to bond over their desires, he realized he had only deepened their frustrations. Not wanting to interrupt, he stayed hidden, listening intently. We should gather the remaining elders, Mama Nia suggested. They may hold the wisdom we need in times like this. We'll need their strength and guidance. Amina clasped her hands together, excitement flickering in her eyes. Let's do it. If we unite the elders' voices, we can combat the chaos. Together, they can remind the villagers of the meaning of sharing. Agreeing, the trio set off to summon the other elders. As they walked, they spoke of old legends and cherished moments shared by the villagers, memories that could stir the hearts of their friends. Kijani felt the weight of the choices before him. He thought of revealing himself to the group, to urge them to let him help. But the fear of rejection knotted in his stomach. Would they even want him around after the chaos he had caused? Meanwhile, the sun began its descent, casting long shadows as they reached a gathering place filled with familiar faces. Elder Mama Nia, quiet but steadfast, took charge and commanded attention with a graceful demeanor. Thank you all for coming, she began, surveying the sea of anxious eyes. Today, we face something greater than our usual challenges. I call upon your wisdom, for the hunger we now suffer is one born from within. The spirit of hunger has enchanted us, twisting our love for food into an obsession. Yours is a sacred gathering, Baba Juma added, stepping forward. And we must remind our people of the value of sharing. Not merely food, but stories, laughter, and traditions. We have become a part of a cycle that threatens to unravel our community. The elders nodded sagely, murmurs of agreement washing over the group. The sentiment stirred something deep within Kijani, and with a sudden rush of courage, he stepped forth from the shadows, addressing the gathering. "I am Kijani," he announced, his voice shaky but genuine. "I am the spirit of hunger you have felt. I wish to help, though I have caused chaos. I only wanted to connect with you, but I realize now that I have led you astray. I need to understand the true essence of your community." Gasps echoed through the elders, and whispers rippled among the villagers as they wrapped their minds around the unexpected presence of the spirit. Mama Nia stood firm. "Your intentions may have faltered, Kijani, but your willingness to seek knowledge is commendable. The heart of our community lies in unity. Only with understanding can we all move forward." Amina stepped closer to Kijani, her expression softening. "You too can help us remember the joy of sharing, Kijani. Perhaps you can guide us in ensuring this hunger does not consume us." Kijani nodded slowly, the weight of their acceptance thawing the knots in his heart. "Together, we can unveil the true meaning of food, reminding the villagers that sharing binds us in ways deeper than a meal alone." Eager energy filled the air as the elders and Kijani gathered in a circle, united in purpose. They began to share their stories, tales of old traditions and laughter shared over meals, weaving memories that dripped with the sweetness of connection. One elder spoke of their ancestral gatherings under a grand mango tree, a monument to memories. The elders told of tales shared while cooking together, with hands mingling, and laughter ringing like music through the air. With every shared story, the essence of their unity seeped back into the hearts of those in the village, encouraging whispers of kinship, of love, and of togetherness over the simple act of sharing food. As night fell, flickering torches lit the gathering place. Kijani felt a new warmth ignite within him, a kinship with those who shared their stories. It was infused with hope and understanding, sparking the desire to help mend the rifts he had caused. With their combined wisdom, they forged a path forward. A plan began to take shape, a way to return nourishment to the villagers not just for their bodies, but for their spirits as well. In this moment of understanding, the seeds of community flourished anew. The grand feast. As twilight descended, casting a twilight blush over the village, preparations for the grand feast began in earnest. The air was thick with a sense of anticipation and eagerness that hummed through the marketplace, blending with the rich sense of spices and woods that lined the stalls. Before the sun set, villagers hustled about, collecting ingredients, sharing laughter, and rekindling the warmth of their relationships. Something that had been dimmed by the spirit's chaotic influence. Kijani stood among the villagers, this time not just an observer, but an eager participant. After the enlightening conversation with the elders, he felt a spark igniting within him. His desire to connect with the community had transformed into actionable love. They were the first ones to accept him, and now it was his turn to stand beside them. Baba Juma, energized after the wisdom shared earlier, guided Kijani along with Amina and Mama Nia through the preparations. He had decided that the grand feast would symbolize their unity and strength as a community, mending the rifts that the spell of insatiable hunger had wrought. "This feast will be one of making amends," Baba Juma instructed, his voice firm but warm. "We will prepare dishes that represent our culture: steaming lentils, grilled meats, fresh fruits, and hearty grains. Every bite will resonate with love, laughter, and the memories we cherish." Kijani nodded, his heart beating a rapid rhythm as he watched the villagers gather ingredients. They worked together seamlessly, rekindling connections forged through shared history. He reminisced about the stories he had heard from Elder Mama Nia, the beautiful tales of community, intertwined with the culture of the village. As a spirited breeze blew through the gathered, patterns of colorful fabric danced like fireflies under the dimming sky. The villagers set up tables decorated with bright cloths and intricate decorations that reflected their culture. Amina and the children arranged flowers picked from the fragrant gardens surrounding the village. The atmosphere transformed into something magical, sparking excitement around them. "This is what sharing should feel like. Look how joyously everyone works together," Amina exclaimed, her eyes shining like stars as she passed Kijani a basket of fruits. Kijani accepted the basket, feeling a flicker of warmth spread through him. "It is wonderful to witness," he breathed, realizing he wanted to partake in more than just food. He desired to immerse himself in the feelings that radiated from every creation of a meal. The smiles, laughter, and connections around him pulsed with vibrant energy, a contrast to the obsession they had endured just a day before. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden hues and illuminating the village's face, the tables began to fill with lots of delectable dishes, artfully arranged. The scent of Baba Juma's famous lentil stew wafted through the air, rich and savory. A dish steeped in history and love, now symbolizing hope for the village. Gathering around the main table, the villagers linked their hands together, forming a strong chain of unity as Baba Juma stood up to address them. "Tonight," he began, glancing around at familiar faces, "we celebrate not just food but the bonds that make us family. Let this feast remind us that together, we can overcome any challenge." A chorus of voices chimed in, voices pregnant with anticipation. Together, they echoed, resonating with purpose as they welcomed Kijani into their midst, finally accepting him as part of their family. With a flourish, Baba Juma set a large, steaming bowl of lentil stew in the center of the table. "A dish made from our hearts," he declared dramatically. "May each of us partake and share our stories. Together, let us feast." Kijani watched in awe as bowl after bowl of food was passed around. The whisper of gossip floated through the air, mingling with laughter, the essence of community filling the atmosphere. He could feel joy pulsating within him, radiating to others around the table. As the meal began, villagers took their first bites, savoring the carefully prepared offerings. Their expressions lit up, laughter exploding like fireworks as stories flowed naturally from their lips. Old tales of their ancestors, memories under the mango tree, and glistening sunsets shared over feasts. Kijani watched, marveling at how laughter echoed through their hearts and resonated with a warmth he had never known in his long existence. Then, bringing forth a surprising melody, Amina stood. "Can we not also celebrate the stories of this moment?" She laughed, and with a gentle strum, she began to play a tune on her handmade instrument. The villagers joined in, clapping hand to hand, turning the feast into an exhilarating festival of joy. Kijani joined in, his spirit dancing to the beat. He felt electric as he swirled among them, clapping and singing, immersing himself in what food had meant all along, the remembrance of connection, compassion, and togetherness. As they feasted, Kijani took a moment to reflect. The spell still stirred in the back of his mind, but it had faded into nothingness compared to the vibrant tapestry of bonds woven among them. He had journeyed from a spirit of hunger to a companion of laughter, learning about the essence that nourished the community, the delicacies of each shared moment, and the power of stories shared over food. With every mouthful, every shared glance, a new magic wove its way into the fabric of their existence. And that night, amidst the echoes of laughter and the clatter of wooden bowls, the grand feast transformed into a celebration that would transcend time, forever reminding them that together, they could rise above their deepest desires and pains. The harmony restored. The grand feast lingered in the air like an enchanted melody, binding villagers and spirit alike in the warmth of togetherness. As laughter and stories flowed amid bowls of steaming lentil stew and glistening fruits, an unspoken understanding began to weave itself between Kijani and the villagers. He felt both an outsider and a cherished member of this vibrant community, a curious paradox that filled him with warmth. When the main course had dwindled and the air settled into a lull of satisfaction, Amina rose once more, her spirit a bright beacon. "Let's share our dreams. What do we wish to cultivate in our community moving forward?" she suggested, her voice light yet earnest. The villagers looked at one another, and at Kijani, their expressions shifting from contentment to contemplation. It was a moment of vulnerability, an opportunity to shape their desires into reality. "I dream of unity in our kitchen, where we can all contribute," a young man spoke, his voice steady. "We should have cooking nights where we gather together, share recipes, and pass on our traditions." "Yes. And feasts like this one. We should celebrate our heritage while remaining sensitive to the spirit of balance," another villager chimed in. Kijani listened intently, his heart swelling at the thought of their aspirations. It dawned on him, their dreams echoed with purpose that had long eluded him. With each vision shared, he felt threads of hope intertwining, re-establishing the connection he had yearned for. Then, Elder Mama Nia raised her hand, garnering the attention of all. "We must remember that sharing extends beyond our tables. Together, we can support one another during hardship." Let's offer help to those in need, enhancing the bond of care that holds us firm. That's it, Amina exclaimed, the excitement sparkling in her eyes. Let's create a community garden. This way, we can grow the ingredients we need and invite everyone to join in. The fruits of our labor will strengthen both our bodies and our unity. Kijani felt his heart racing as he absorbed each idea, woven together like the fabric of their community. He stepped forward, encouraged by the idea of a collaborative future. "And I will help you navigate the spirit of hunger," he declared, his voice clear and sincere. "I will lend my magic to ensure every person knows the joy of moderation and balance." The villagers looked at Kijani with newfound appreciation. They had witnessed the chaos his spirit had once wrought, yet here he stood, ready to embrace change alongside them. In that moment, the trepidation that shadowed the past began to dissipate, replaced by anticipation and hope. Baba Juma, who had been quietly reflecting, finally spoke, his voice steady like the surrounding trees. "As we plant our community garden, let us also nurture the seeds of love, patience, and kindness among us. Food brings us together, but love sustains us. And Kijani, for the vulnerability you have shown, we welcome you to guide us, to teach us how to savor life without overindulgence." With those words of acceptance, a tangible shift occurred. The laughter returned, the spirit of joy radiating brighter than the stars that hung above them. Kijani felt a sense of belonging he had never imagined possible. He had transformed from the spirit of hunger to the spirit of harmony, all through the willingness to connect. In the days that followed, the village blossomed with renewed life. They planted rows of vibrant fruits and vegetables in the community garden, adults and children working side by side, creating a beautiful space fueled by cooperation and love. Kijani guided them, imbuing their efforts with enchantment that helped their plants flourish beyond expectation. One afternoon, observing the growing garden, Kijani noticed the laughter and bonds formed, much like the intertwined roots of the plants beneath their feet. Each joyful exchange atop the mellow earth reminded him that harmony was forged through understanding, balance, and letting go of hunger, both physically and emotionally. As the harvest approached, the village prepared for another grand feast, the air thick with excitement and abundance. But this time, the spirit that would guide them was not an insatiable yearning, it was the love they had sown, confirming the strength of their unity. On the day of the feast, the villagers arranged tables that gleamed with color, filled with dishes crafted from the fruits of their labor. Joy danced in the air. Amina stood ready with her instrument, strumming a happy tune as laughter filled the space once more. Under the grand mango tree, villagers gathered around, their hearts light with gratitude. Kijani felt the electricity of happiness buzzing around him, a chorus of voices that blended into a song of hope and restoration. The feast began with a ceremonial blessing from Baba Juma, reminding them of the journey they had traveled together and the bonds they had reinforced. As they shared bites of delicious food, Kijani looked into the eyes of his new family. He had come to understand that the true spirit of any gathering rested in the kindness and joy hidden beneath each shared moment. In their laughter, he found his purpose. He was no longer a disruptor, he was a weaver, crafting a tapestry of harmony, one rich with sustenance for both the body and soul. That evening, as stars twinkled overhead, it became clear that the village had restored harmony on multiple levels. A sense of peace that lingered long after the last morsels were consumed, forever threading their stories into the heart of their community. In embracing his roots in love and understanding, Kijani became part of something remarkable, a vibrant, nurturing village fueled by compassion, intertwined with the magic that arises when hearts unite. Through the journey of transformation, the spirit of hunger had become the spirit of gratitude, harmony, and eternal connection. Did you enjoy this video? If so, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to join us for more amazing stories every day. Here at Daily Anything History, there's always something new to discover. See you in the next video.